Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome back again to the channel. And I have some, let's say, current reasons to speak about the structure of academic papers again, because that's evidently seen very differently in different parts of the world, and sometimes that is a problem. So today, my focus will be on how to structure an academic paper and how not to structure it. What would be completely wrong? Okay, I know you should normally not show people something which is wrong, but unfortunately there are some widespread ideas which happen to be completely wrong when you write a paper about, let's say, taxation matters. So, completely wrong would be a thesis or paper structure like this one. You begin with introduction, okay, that's fine, that's never wrong. Then literature review, methodology, discussion and analysis, and limitations and conclusion of the results. And this is a widespread structure which always shows up again and again. It can nearly be not rooted out and removed from existence. That has a reason. This structure makes sense, but not in taxation or legal stuff. It has a completely different origin. Where would it make sense? In a paper about natural sciences. So, in a paper about physics, astrophysics, and stuff like that. For questions like, can exoplanets be found behind the black hole? Or can you not see them if a black hole is on the way from here to the exoplanet? And then how can it be found? That would be a classical natural science topic. At least I hope so. So here, why is such a structure here reasonable? Because here you have to carry through experiments, collect data, and so. And you, for my question, which I just invented just here, you would probably have to book some time slots, not one, but many, in an observatory for hours or months worldwide, perhaps even, and that costs thousands or millions. So, in that case, you would first have to clear if your question has already been solved by somebody else, because then it would be a waste of money to do the same experiments again. Then, if you come to the result your question is still open, then you can run the experiment, but then you must naturally think very thoroughly about the question, can my experiment really achieve the knowledge which I want to achieve? So you would have to think about your methods. Are there any inbuilt logical mistakes? Can I really find out with my method that what I want to find out? So you would have to look about your method there very, very deeply. And because otherwise you made an experiment which could not produce valid results, not convincing results, because you made a mistake in the basic approach. So you would have wasted thousands or millions for nothing. So that would then be necessary before you run your experiments. And when you then run your experiments, you get certain measurements, and afterwards you have to interpret the measurement results. So you have to discuss what they can mean, what they do mean, what they perhaps mean, and what they definitely not mean under no circumstances. And then, you see, for dealing with questions in the natural sciences, such a structure makes absolute sense. It's even recommendable. So now here comes the but. But you are not a natural scientist when you deal with questions of law or taxation. You must simply see that there are more disciplines in the academic and scientific field than those which are physics, chemistry, astrophysics, and all the rest. There is a basic distinction which can be simplified as follows. When it is about research or scientific research in the wider sense of the word, you can distinguish the natural sciences, so scientific in the stricter sense of the word, and that would be, for example, mathematics, physics, chemistry, statistics. Now, there are also the philosophical or academic disciplines, those which are not natural sciences. There you work on a completely different basis. For example, philosophy. Can you imagine to solve philosophical questions by experiments? I have difficulties there. History. Can you find out the truth about historical developments by experiment? Difficult. Law. Business administration. They also rather belong here. Huh? So, for the academic disciplines, using the approach of research for natural sciences is absolute and utmost and purest rubbish. That's like if you want to construct a house and then try to do building a house with the methods of a medical doctor. That can't end up with a good result. So imagine the sheer idea is really fascinating because let's say our research question in the area of law is how can we determine what the law regards as murder? And now think about it, perhaps by experiment. Just kill some people, probably with variations. Statistics professors would then say from 2000 killings onwards, you have safe results under a statistical aspect. So it's really complete rubbish, a different field of science. So you can't approach these things with the methods of natural sciences. Huh? So that's not recommendable. So how do you do then research in the philosophical disciplines, the academic ones? Here, the method is usually not the experiments. You have just seen that just now. But what you do is you make use of your brain, that is between the left and the right ear, and you use logic. So you try to avoid to write down things which are evident nonsense or contradictory or other things like that. Now, that is the method of academic research. Now we can probably agree that it would be highly awkward to write a chapter in an academic paper. My method is the using of brain and logic. Or to do it in a more high-level way, my method to clear the question is logical analysis. Hey, that's self-evident. That's obvious. That is trivial. Huh? What else could you use than reason, your brain, logic, all the same stuff? So there is no chapter about methodology, the choice of my method, and the implications and limits of my research method. Where are the limitations of logic? There are some. Ask some mathematicians about that, or philosophers, but probably you will not need to worry about that in the field of academic research, at least not on law questions and so. So this would be not only a bit superfluous, but probably highly awkward. Hey, here's a law expert who thinks about the method of generating insights in the field of law. Oh, interesting. So you can think about the different ways how you can, in a logical way, interpret the law. So there are certain recommendations and accepted methods to draw conclusions in a logically convincing way, but the basic method is always the same. You use logical analysis. So you don't write about that. Huh? Now, how does it work? If you have a task and your paper gives you a task, you have simply to solve that task. Now, every task has a logical structure. You have to find it out. You have to ask yourself, like if you have to solve a mathematic task, how much is 2 plus 2? If x plus 2y is 3, which solutions are possible for that, for which x and y? There is a logical way, or there might be several logically possible ways to arrive at a compelling result, an answer, which is correct. So your question will now be, which logical steps do I have to make, step after step, in order to arrive at my solution of the task? Well, and then how can I, let's say, subdivide my task into steps, logical steps, so that in the end I can be sure that my solution of the task is the one and only true solution of the task. That's the way how you have to deal with such a task, and that automatically leads you to your structure. Which step do I have to think about first? If that gives me a result on which I can build, how am I going to proceed? What will be the next problem which I have to solve on the way to my final thing? Or if my task covers a wide field, which different small fields, different areas are contained in that wide field? How can I subdivide my big field of research where I have to solve questions into logical sub-entities where I can say, okay, if I divided my large and wide field, which I have to think about, into different smaller fields, how can I then be sure that afterwards I have covered all the questions which my task poses in a way which is not constant repetition, which is covering everything, which has a logical, logical way underlying this and so on. Now, let's, for example, think about an example. Imagine your task is, which you gave yourself, you want to write about unwanted effects created by the interest barrier. Well, if you don't know what the interest barrier is, don't think about it. It's not necessary. At least not for this topic here. So, if that is your task, then the first thing I would like to think about is, what are the aims of that rule? Because if I don't know what the aims of the rule is, so what effects it should and shall is meant to achieve, then I cannot compare which effects it provokes, which are unwanted. So that would be the first logical thing. Which things are wanted? Then I would have to look, how does it work? So which effects does it produce? All of them. Because if I not know all of the effects, then I cannot judge the effects under the aspect if they are wanted or unwanted. So that would be the next logical step. And now, perhaps if I write about unwanted effects, I do not only want to find them, but also to analyze what causes them and what could solve the problems which they pose. So that would be also another logical step concerning these unwanted effects which I find. How can I deal with them? Good. Now, the next thing is, where would literature come in? Well, when you write about the aims of an interest barrier rule, can you know the aims without looking into books, using articles, journal articles, and so on? No, you can't. So you will use literature at that step. Then, when you write about the way how the interest barrier works, which effects it produces in which situations, can you do this without looking into literature, article, journals, newspaper, not newspapers, probably too trivial, but all these sources which you have available? Yes, it's impossible to find all these effects without reading books and informing yourselves about the matter. So you use literature again here as a source of information because you don't have experiments. So you must get your information somewhere. So you read books, articles, internet sources, government sources. Everything which is reliable can be used. And so you get your information for your logical steps from there. Next question, when you want to identify the unwanted effects. So when you want to know which different effects can that rule provoke under which circumstances, you need ideas. Which situations can occur? Which effects will happen? Are there debates about how the rule works? For example, one of the effects is probably the rule is not clearly to be interpreted. So one of the effects might be people are uncertain how to act and not to act. Well, okay, so if I want to find this effect, I probably need information from literature and sources. So I use again literature. And so you see, literature is used everywhere. When you logically discuss every aspect of the problem, you need information and you use it from everywhere. This is entirely different from how chemistry, physics, astrophysics, statistical things are done. So we can sum up by analogy to a famous word by Donald Tusk. There is a special place in hell for all those people who want to write a separate chapter about literature or literature review in an academic discipline. Huh? So never do this. Huh? It's the direct way to hell because it's complete nonsense. It's so nonsensical. Yeah, one would even have to coin a new word for it. Nonsensical also as a chapter on methodology here in that context, huh? Because that makes no sense here. Okay. Now, by the way, perhaps you are interested, how could you refine a basic structure? Well, the thing is, if you look to your problem and think about which step do I have to take first, which step is the second one logically, what do I need to clear the next part of my problem? So you analyze your topic, your task, and subdivide it into different logical steps which you have to solve one after another. And so if you write about how that interest barrier works, there will be probably different constellations, situations, different aspects of the rule, and you will probably analyze for each aspect or each situation how the rules work, what is the outcome, and then directly say this outcome presents a problem, and then probably say how can I deal with that problem. Huh? So you can probably define different subsets of rules or aspects which you can discuss one after another. Huh? And you will never, never, ever separate the presentation of the facts and their discussion and analysis as you would do it in a natural science paper. You would just say these are the facts here, and then you would see which effects are expectable, which they are going to produce for a reasonable human being. Do these effects provoke or cause unwanted consequences? How can we deal with them? So you would probably see one aspect, describe it, analyze it as a whole until you're finished with that, and then go to the next logical aspect of your topic. Huh? So you would, when you write a structure, subdivide your topic according to the different logical steps. which you need in order to solve your task. You would never make up such formal things like first chapter is literature, second is methodology, third is facts, and then in analysis of the facts, or six, own opinion. That is completely nonsense. Huh? So your structure must be orientated according to what your topic requires. The general outline and recommendation for your structure must be: look what your task requires and then approach it step after step. Leave away each unnecessary step. So, for example, when you had to do a mathematics task in school, homework for mathematics, you never inserted some calculations which were not necessary for solving the task. The same applies here. Good. Thanks for watching. I hope I could help you a bit with regard to understanding what academic papers require concerning the structure. There will probably be, in the course of time, more and more small remarks, but this may be sufficient for today. So thank you very much for listening, and see you again next time.